Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as he does on all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drobner.
What's up, guys?
And we are back. It is a little 4th of July episode. We're recording this Monday morning, 4th of July action, a little festive free agency, just chaos episode that we have going on here. We were talking about it. There's been how many deals, how many trades, how many rumors, just so much garbage. But if we're going to go through just an absolute dumpster fire, I feel like we have to start with the Nets. So Kevin Durant at basically the last minute right before free agency starts, like this was Thursday, like 2 hours before free agency opens. It's like Kevin Durant wants to trade out of Brooklyn. This is after Kyrie opts into his contract. I don't blame him, but I think it's just like a disaster situation for the Nets. I think if you told them 3 years ago when they were signing the two of them that they would have one playoff series win over 3 years after trading for James Harden, and now they're stuck with Ben Simmons and these two want out. I think it's a complete and epic failure.
When Kyrie opted in, I guess we all figured that Kevin Durant was also going to stay. So right. The Kevin Durant news kind of came as a shock when all of a sudden he was like, "No, I want out."
What do you think of him wanting out? Do you think it's justified?
No, I really think that I think there's a lot of criticism on the internet and in the media today. And I think it got to Kevin Durant, as it seems to always do. Yeah. And I think him wanting out is more of him feeling pressure than him taking a look at things objectively and understanding that where he's at is a good situation.
So, and that's the thing. I keep coming back to this because obviously now he and Kyrie both have their trade demands. And look, you just mentioned it, the internet roasts him, but he now wants to get traded to the two number one seeds in the NBA, the Heat or the Suns. And it's like, we're all going to rip on him for that. But
after watching the
Nets are under one, they're under no obligation to send him to either of those teams, which it currently seems like there's a chance they might not. But also two, he's under contract for another 4 years. They don't have to trade him at all. If I'm the Nets, I'm not rushing into this. I'll Ben Simmons. You want to sit out? Go ahead. Sit out in the twilight years of your prime and risk not winning another championship. There's no way. So from the Nets, I'm I'm not in any rush to get you off of my roster.
I was thinking about this the other day where a lot of these big players sign these big contracts, and I understand about getting paid, but there should be a certain amount of money that's getting guaranteed on those contracts, or there has to be something where players are disincentivized to ask for trades, right? Because you sign these huge mega contracts, you tell the team, you pretty much are telling the team and the organization that you're going to stick around, you want to be here, right? And then to, force your way out after landing a huge contract from the team, you kind of put a dent in the culture. And I think a lot of the news also coming out around the Nets is Joe Tsai would rather have a team that fights hard and he's proud of than to have a team full of superstars that he is disgraced to be a part of, right? And if Kevin Durant was like, okay, here I am, I have 4 years left on my contract, and he bought in, he's like, I want to be here, I want to make this team better, maybe did a little recruiting, inspired his teammates, something like that, right? Really being a leader, kind of like we see what LeBron does, right? LeBron's not asking for trades. LA had a terrible season. At least the Nets made the play-in, right? Or playoffs.
Oh yeah, and they were the 7. They lost to the Celtics.
That's what I mean. So, you don't see LeBron doing all this stuff because LeBron understands that the tone starts with him. He has to come into work every day and bring a mentality and a energy that inspires his teammates to play better, because he knows if he wants to win a championship, it starts with him as the leader of his team, as the best player on his team, as the most important figure in his organization. So the fact that Kevin Durant doesn't want to do that says a lot about the difference between being great and being good. Kevin Durant will if he's going to act like this, he's going to continue to be criticized. He's going to continue to say, oh, well, he hopped on Steph's teams for 2 rings. Those rings aren't really legitimate. He's never been able to do it on his own. He's going to get knocked. So he's writing his own narrative. He's making it easy for people to put him down. Whereas if you just stuck it out and understand that if I brought the right energy to my team, I could be a championship. And I think part of what Kevin Durant's fault is the fact that he was like, yeah, Kyrie, let's team up. I feel like when they were both signing with the Nets, there was a lot of concern that Kyrie was a little bit of a diva.
Right.
And it was kind of proven at that point after forcing his way out of Cleveland and kind of ruining the Celtics.
Right. Exactly.
So
and I do think to some degree, like, this could have been avoided. Like, as much as I do want to give the Nets credit for being like, we're not going to just like totally bend the knee to superstars anymore. But at the same time, a lot of the reason Kyrie didn't play this individual season, I know obviously in years past, he was like going away for whatever, disappearing, like definitely ruined his credibility or trust within the organization. That said, though, like, the vaccine mandate has come and gone. That's not going to prohibit him from playing. I think there was probably a way for them to make a deal work where he came back.
Let's say the Nets have a first-round series against the Toronto Raptors. Kyrie can't go play in Canada. There's still a mandate there. So Kyrie, again, here's another guy who has to understand that it starts with him. I understand you want to make your social message and you want to stand up for the people who aren't being supported in the media. But you have a career and your own interests to protect. The fact that you won't get vaccinated for yourself and the people who are closest to you says a lot, right? And as the Nets ownership, they're saying the right things. They're saying, screw this guy. And I want to get back to, again, it starts with your stars. You see, like, the Clippers, there's no drama from Kawhi and Paul George. I understand they sit out because of injuries and whatnot, but there's still no drama. They don't talk. It's not like they're being sat out for bad reasons or anything like that. They're like, I'm injured. I'm taking my time coming back, right? And the Clippers allow them to do that. There's no drama around it. There's just basketball, and they're a better team, right? If you take away Kyrie and KD from that Nets team, they're a far worse team than if you take away Kawhi and Paul George from that Clippers team. Yeah,
I would totally agree with that.
And it starts with the stars. So
it does start with the stars. So speaking of these stars now, and I don't want to overly speculate, but I do have to ask. And now we'll start with Kyrie, because it seems like it's just the Lakers and like maybe a chance of the Mavericks or the Heat, but like realistically not. Do we think he's getting traded? And if so, where? Is it just going to be the Westbrook type swap? Because like I don't know why Brooklyn would necessarily do that.
I think there was rumors of a potential Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, or maybe that was to the Lakers. Westbrook
there
for
was
them.
Some like flip around. Yeah, I didn't really know. But like I don't know who's, and for the same reason we're saying the Nets wouldn't commit. Like, who is going to trade for Kyrie and trade significant assets? Because it seemed like the Nets are like pretty demanding in what they want here. Who's going to trade significant assets to get a guy who expires after this year and you have no guarantee that he's going to commit to you long term at all? So
I mean, you have no guarantee.
Deal out there might even just be that Lakers deal because they're desperate. They need to make a move right now to get Westbrook off the books and to bring in someone that can help him win. I think that's the reason he goes to the Lakers.
The Lakers have their own problems to figure out. Just focusing on the Kyrie situation and people wanting to trade for him. You trade for an expiring superstar. You have some hope that you can at least appeal to him and bring him back and retain him. Yeah. You see that happen all the time. The problem with the Kyrie situation is that he's really a free radical. There's no way to gauge him. You have no idea what he's doing. And even then, let's say he wants to stay for the long term. You sign him to a 4-year max. Do you want him there on the 4-year max?
Very good point.
Right. So,
I mean, we've seen what he's done in all 3 destinations so far. And you would have figured, like, fine, you wanted to be the guy and get away from LeBron. You leave Cleveland. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt there. Then it crashes and burns in Boston, but like, fine. Maybe that was just a failed experiment and you get out. Now you go team up with your best friend in Kevin Durant and you have like you're handpicking your coach, your teammates, everything, and you're still not happy. Like, who wants that in a locker room? And again, that's why it gets back to like, who is going to shell out? Like, let's say, would you get rid of 2 first-round picks for him?
No, I don't think they're going to get any package for Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving will be a salary swap and whatever shitty package you get.
But that's why I think the Westbrook one where they get, because the Lakers will attach picks to offload Westbrook and bring in Kyrie, which is why I think it's the only logical destination. Because who the hell else is going to make that commitment? The Lakers have no choice. They have to. Because if they squander another LeBron, Anthony Davis year because they have Westbrook on the roster, it's a failure. It's an organizational failure. And this is your only opportunity to somehow right that. So I think we have
a huge recency bias with the Lakers. I understand that it's a failure if you don't win a championship when you have LeBron and AD on the roster. But the fact that they already got one in the window that they had with the two of them,
fine,
good enough.
I think my counter to that is yes, but like they're not even making the playoffs. Like it's not even like you're contending for a championship. That's the issue. It's one thing if they were making the playoffs and they're just kind of missing the cusp of like maybe they get it together. They're not even close to that. They missed the play. They didn't even play in.
Like, I'm not really sure where to put the blame in LA because you win a championship. Why not just try and retain the guys you have, play the same basketball you were playing? Instead, they try and make all these moves trying to continue to compete. But I can you win one, you wanna win two in a row. You don't trade away players.
I mean,
you don't.
Westbrook, it's just so tough having him on that team.
It's terrible. It's awful. From the moment he got to the Lakers,
it
was questionable. And now that he's playing basketball, and don't get me wrong, Russell Westbrook's a great player when he has his own team and he's the lead guy, but he will never be the best player on a championship team, and he will never be a secondary star on a championship team. And that's because he doesn't have a scalable game. He needs the ball, and if he doesn't have the ball, he's terrible. He's awful.
Well, and that's my favorite scenario in all of this is, let's say, and it kind of gets back to how I was just saying, like the Nets are under no obligation to trade Durant right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have a little less leverage there with Kyrie because he is expiring. But I'm hoping the Kyrie for Westbrook swap happens. They don't trade Kevin Durant, and then he's just stuck there with Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook. And that's their big three that they're rolling out there. It would be unbelievably funny if after like orchestrating all this and firing Kenny Atkinson because he won't start DeAndre Jordan and all this stuff, that then suddenly you're left with your own creation of Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook in Brooklyn. Like it would just be unbelievably fun. But I still think Kevin Durant will ultimately get traded. I just think it's very complicated.
I think the best scenario for the Nets right now is trade away KD and Kyrie for the most picks you can get right now.
Right.
You might not get back everything you wanted. You might not, trade away for picks and look to Ben Simmons and say, look, we understand you're having a difficult time. We're headed towards a full rebuild now. We want to give you the freedom to be exactly who you want to be. We want you to go out there and just play the best basketball you can play. And we'll try our hardest to cater for you. Because at one point in time, Ben Simmons was a number one overall pick. He was rookie of the year. He was, right? We all see these things that we all have. He has an all-star potential. He has a superstar potential. He could be really, really good if he just worked on his game a little bit.
Right.
Or given the right situation to succeed. And the Nets could build that for him. And that's, I think, the direction they should be trying to go in right now. Because the
only issue with that is they traded all their picks to Houston. So they realistically, if they just get the pick haul in these trades and they're bad, they don't even reap the benefits from that. So there is something to be said about, you do want to also bring in some sort of an infrastructure to not compete, but like to win games, start building a culture again and like getting your footing. Because if you lose, it's not like you're like, if it's just Ben Simmons and a bunch of scrubs and you lose a ton, you don't even reap the benefits of that. So I understand why they're saying, oh, we want, a young star and picks and all this. Like their demand should be very high because they're in a weird spot. Like they're definitely, it's complicated because it's not like they're just like, okay, let's just lose a ton. We'll have a ton of good picks, whatever. Like they're really in this weird limbo. So I don't know. Like that's why I think it's going to be complicated to get this done. I think it's going to take way more than just one team. Realistically, it's going to be 3, 4. You might have to even get a 5th team involved to move pieces around to get the thing to work. But
they're screwed. I think things got worse when they traded for Harden.
Yes,
a little bit of a mistake there. But I put it in a similar category as the Sixers trading for Jimmy Butler and then signing Tobias Harris to the max, not Jimmy Butler.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do. I think there were some pretty short-sighted decisions made. And like, yes, on paper, the 3 of them should have been unfreaking
outstanding.
they barely played together. And so, for whatever reason, it just didn't work. And then they all rubbed each other the wrong way. Harden got out. And, it is what it is. And I am genuinely looking forward to when everyone is officially traded and no one's together and they can kind of go scorched earth. The stories that are going to come out from that organization that start to leak about what actually happened and what went down and who said what, it's going to be, you're going to need a 30 for 30 on it. Cause it really is just fascinating that they played so few games and all left so frustrated.
Yeah. It's definitely a failed experiment.
Where do you want to see Kevin Durant? If let's say he does get traded, where do you want to see him end up?
I think the only place that really makes sense in my mind is Phoenix. You do a package centered around sign and trade with Ayton.
Right.
So you give Ayton his max, trade him for Kevin Durant. Obviously, you're going to attach other things. Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson will also go in that deal. They're going to give up 4 futures and a couple swaps.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's most likely to happen there, but the team I would love to see him on is Portland. I would love to see him and Damian Lillard. I think it would just be very cool to see Dame be so committed to that organization. And then they finally go and bring him that true star that he can go win with. That duo would be unbelievable. I mean, look what they just
would be very good
medal together. So
the Blazers kind of locked in with they're trading for Jeremy Grant. They brought back Nurkic, brought back Simons.
Right.
It's an interesting situation. I don't know how many of their own picks they own, but
I think they own them all. I think that's the one thing they have going for them is their pick flexibility, but they don't, in the same way that we're just saying Brooklyn wants all these demands, they can't meet them on their own. They would have to get someone else involved, and that's when it gets really complicated.
What did they get back for CJ McCollum, the Blazers?
It was not good. I remember being pretty underwhelmed by the return. I think there's a Clippers trade where they got Josh Hart. Yeah.
Portland Trail Blazers traded CJ McCollum, Larry Nance, Tony Snell for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Hart, Didi Luzaga, Thomas Sinarak. It was a draft pick this year.
Well,
a 2026 second round, a 2027 second round.
Yikes.
And a trade exception.
That is not the haul you want for CJ McCollum, but
and they kind of did the same thing with Robert Covington, who got that huge extension from the Clippers.
Right.
They got Keon Johnson, Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, just
and some seconds.
A weird sequence of trades for them. But I do like them getting Jeremy Grant. I don't think they gave up much to do it. So I do think he fits with Dame. It's just that team is not good enough to go win a championship right now, which is why I would love to see them try and trade for KD. And I don't think it happens, but I would love it. That's the one destination where I don't think I'd be frustrated with KD if he got sent.
Fair enough. I don't think I'd be frustrated with that either. I think it would be a good fit too. And I mean, I feel like every time there's a big small forward available, we always talk about Portland because we all know that that's what Dame needs. He needs a 6'10" wing to come play with him. So Kevin Durant would make a perfect fit. And speaking of the Jeremy Grant trade and how the Blazers didn't give much up for him, the Mavericks traded for Christian Wood. They barely gave up anything. It was some pick swaps and bench pieces. Not even bench pieces. Marquise Chris was
Boban got traded. Show some respect for Boban.
I mean, Boban's a garbage time hero.
I know.
Marquise Chris was one of those COVID contracts that they ended up extending to a full contract. Trey Burke, I don't think he's not really playing much.
I mean, he's bad. Let's face it, he's not good.
Sterling Brown was solid for a little bit, but I don't think he's playing much either. Right? So they traded 4 guys who don't really play, and the 26th overall pick, which turned into Wendell Moore. So for Christian Wood, who is an all-star level player, we see them do it in Detroit. Let's see if he can get it done in.
Right.
And I still think the Mavericks need a center. So Andre Drummond, who signed with the Bulls, I think would have been a good fit. They just need someone who can
all right. So
control
let's
the paint
switch
a little
over to
bit.
Free agency now that we're done with that.
Let's
look at the Mavericks. I think you're right. They lose Jalen Brunson. which I think everyone kind of expected. The writing was on the wall. The Knicks had all pretty. I mean, it was as close you can get to tampering as possible without like. I mean,
tampering.
his dad
They're
is
gonna get.
coach.
They're gonna.
Can he not call
gonna
his
get a
dad
tampering
during the free agency window? Like, like it's obviously tampering, but at the same time, like his godfather is Leon Rose. What?
Yeah.
Like, of course it's tampering, but then again, you can so easily sidestep that and be like, no, I was calling my godfather. Like,
right.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how you enforce that, but whatever. But so
you're gonna forfeit a second-round pick,
right? Yeah, it's something stupid like that. But so Jalen Brunson leaves. Then their next, I'm gonna say backup, but they're planning on signing Goran Dragic, who just signed with the Bulls yesterday. Small vet minimum deal.
I have no idea what goes on with that situation because I feel like every time Goran Dragic is available to go to a new team, it's like, oh, he's going to the Mavs, he's going to the Mavs, he's going to the Mavs, and then he doesn't end up on the Mavs.
But I don't understand. Like, he and Luka are so close, and like they keep saying they want to play together.
They're playing in the World Cup qualifiers right now for Slovenia together on the same team. I believe
that something else could be in the works, that they didn't sign him. They might have some other plan in the organization, because to me, it doesn't overly make sense. Like, that seemed like a pretty reasonable fit there. Like, just like a good comfort piece for Luka too. But hey, I don't know. But you're right. I think they could. I don't know that they necessarily need a center. I think they definitely need a little more help at guard. I think that's what they need. I know Luka is so ball dominant, but you can't just be like, all right, you're the only one touching the ball.
I think the biggest problem on their roster right now is the fact that they're paying $21 million to Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah. I mean, they're also counting on Spencer Dinwiddie to not be a negative contract, which I think he showed in the playoffs that he can be very valuable. I think
how much more time does Dinwiddie have?
You're right. I think it's a shame they're paying Hardaway and Bertans the amounts they are, because I mean that's such a big chunk. That's like well over a max contract of money to those two guys.
I don't mind Bertans. Bertans is someone I feel I can retain.
But isn't he making like $18 million a year? Like,
yeah, but I want to look at their payroll right now. I think if we look at the future and what they have on the payroll, I don't think it's as damning as.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Mavericks didn't get any better. They didn't get worse this offseason. Like, I think bringing in Christian Wood is certainly an addition, but then losing Brunson is definitely a blow to the program. So, I mean, I guess it depends how you look at it, because they were desperate for that center, and like maybe Dinwiddie can step up and give you a similar production to what Brunson was doing. But I don't know.
I think Dinwiddie can be good. I don't think he's going to be as good as Brunson. They definitely need a scoring guard.
Yes.
And that could be like any type of scoring guard. He could be small like a CJ McCollum. He could be big like a Jaylen Brown.
Right.
Because Luka's so versatile, right? Luka can play point guard, he can play shooting guard, he can play small forward. I think they've done a good job of filling in their wings. I don't think Christian Wood's going to see a lot of time at center. He's going to see time at power forward, and he's going to play like the Robert Williams type role on defense, where he's going to kind of be like a free roamer. Where he's going to step out there and guard someone in the corner, but as soon as someone drives, he's there for a block. And I think that's his best position defensively.
I mean, their defense was awesome last year, and I definitely think he helps reinforce that, because they were missing that real like deterrent at the rim. They didn't have that guy, and so now you bring him in. It definitely gives you a little bit of a different look on that end, because I mean, before it was like these undersized bigs that were like more athletic, and you were switching everything, and it is effective. And Christian Wood can still do that to a degree. But I think you hit the nail on the head. They're going to let him roam a little bit. Yes, he can guard the perimeter, but he's going to clean everything up at the rim, which is something they really needed and didn't quite have last year.
And they signed JaVale McGee, which I also think helps Maxi Kleber. I think Maxi Kleber and Christian Wood are kind of interchangeable, where, they could play center, but you would really prefer them to play power forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And even
they have that undersized mold.
Yeah, and Maxi Kleber 3 years ago, I don't remember how long it was. He was guarding Paul George and Kawhi in the playoffs, and he was doing a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
So if I really needed to move Kleber down to small forward, I could do that too. I think Dorian Finney-Smith's a good option. I think Reggie Bullock's a good option. So I mean, they have pieces here. So
yeah,
it looks good.
I agree.
I just think Spencer Dinwiddie he has $18 million. Next year, he's $19 million the year after that. Davis Bertans is on $16 million for 3 more years. And Tim Hardaway Jr. has a decreasing contract. So you got 21 million this year, 19 this upcoming season, and 17, 16. So
Yeah,
it gets a little better as time goes on. But again, I still don't want to be paying Tim Hardaway Jr. 17 or $16 million.
it's a lot to pay a guy that isn't really great on the defensive end and then is so streaky on the offensive end. Like, you really want to shell out that money for someone with a little more consistency, at least on one end of the court. If he was like, great on offense, sucked at defense, fine. That makes more sense. But he is just so streaky that it's just not worth that money. And I think the hope was we'll pay him, he'll grow, and he'll get better. But we haven't quite seen it.
I think part of it was salary matching in that Porzingis trade.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I do think the Mavericks did a good job. They had 1 pick in the second round. They drafted Jaden Hardy, who was a top 5 recruit out of high school, and then went into the G League where he played good. He just didn't play great. Right. I think a lot of prospects ended up moving up on the board over him. He was like a top 10 pick to start the year. And then once everybody started playing, he fell down a little bit. So he's a shooter. I know that he's a rangy 3-point shooter. I don't think he has much of an inside game, and I don't think he can do much else other than shoot. But
it's just hard. It's hard to ask a rookie to come in and like really help propel you to be like a championship team. Like,
no, but
team.
He's kind of what they need, where he's just he's just an off-screen shooter, right? You run a little play for him, Luka throws a nice pass, and he just goes up and shoots it, which is good. Which is what they need. It gives him spacing. He can kind of fill in that Reggie Bullock mold. As Reggie Bullock gets older, he can kind of fill in for some of the shooters they have who are expiring. And I think they have guys on that roster who can help him develop. Like, I know we just talked about Tim Hardaway Jr. We bashed him a little bit, but probably a good mentor for a guy like Jaden Hardy. So
yeah, definitely. All right, so I want to switch it up and just run through some of the contracts and other deals.
We can talk about some of the bigger trades too, where like the Hawks just acquired DeJounte Murray.
Yep.
Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves.
So let's start with DeJounte Murray. Do you think they're kicking themselves that the day before Kevin Durant demands a trade that they trade 3 first-round picks to get DeJounte Murray? Because I would say that they arguably had one of the most compelling packages before that point, because they have a good combination of good young players, picks, everything. And then literally the day before, they traded for three picks for DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, I could understand that. Obviously, Kevin Durant's going to be valuable on any roster.
Right. He and Trey would have been cool.
Yeah, 100%.
That said, DeJounte and Trey is also very fun. So I don't want to totally slash it, because I do actually like that move. I think they were desperate for getting another solid ball handler facilitator next to Trey. Because in the playoffs and like in serious minutes, like they swarm Trey and no one else can create offense. So now you have that. And I think it really does propel them forward. And there's rumors they might still trade John Collins and stuff. So I don't think they're necessarily done yet.
Yeah, I think John Collins is in every rumor.
They traded away Kevin Huerter and brought in, I think, Justin Holiday. They brought in someone.
I think it's Justin Holiday.
And I'm like trying to scroll all the way back in free agency, and it's just like, but
yeah, it's better just to Google it. Atlanta Hawks trade Kevin Huerter for 2024 first round pick and 2 players. The 2 players were Justin Holiday and Mo Harkless, and the pick was top 14 protected.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
which, obviously like the Kings, teams, whatever they're building in Sacramento could be potentially good, and they could drop out of the lottery. But like, I have such a hard time believing that 2024 pick is going to convey, just because the Kings are cursed.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a weird. I don't know. Like, I do like what the Kings did this offseason, so I don't want to totally knock it, because I think they brought in a ton of shooting. Malik Monk is now back playing with De'Aaron Fox again, like they did at Kentucky. Like, I think they're fun.
Who's their coach, Alvin Gentry?
They hired Mike Brown from the.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alvin Gentry moved into the front office and kind of cleared the way.
I see.
But
I
yeah,
know
so
he was
I
the
like what the
interim
Kings
head coach.
did.
So.
And also Keegan Murray just balled out in his first summer league game. Did you see that?
Yeah, I understand
It's summer league. I'm not. Kevin Knox looks like the best player of all time in summer league. So I don't want to. But that's got to feel good when everyone's like shitting on them for not taking Jaden Ivey.
No, I mean Keegan Murray is a good basketball player, and he has a very developed game. With the number 4 pick, he was their best option. In my opinion, they should have traded back on some assets that could probably contribute. Right, they could have got like 2 or 3 players who could have contributed right now, rather than just one. Right. And there's more of a question mark about whether or not Keegan Murray could contribute right now than if like I had traded for a couple known vets, known journeymen. But I understand the appeal behind Keegan Murray. Watching him at Iowa, I had no issues with it. But
yeah. But anyway, so back to the Hawks. I didn't mean to totally derail us and talk about the Kings because the Kings are fine. They might make the playoffs, although the West is freaking stacked. But
West is insane.
Yeah. Honestly, the whole NBA, there's so much parity in the NBA right now that I don't think there's a guarantee of really nailing who's going to make the playoffs in either conference. Like, I think there could be such range here. Anyway, Hawks, I love what they did. I think that they focused on the defensive end because I think they know they're going to get plenty of offense from Trey and DeJounte. And then everyone else they brought in is so defensive minded. Like, I think it's actually, I think they, and especially now if the Nets blow things up, like I think are they top 4 in the Eastern Conference? I'd say
Hawks?
Realistically 4 or 5. I don't think
Celtics, Bucks, Sixers,
Celtics, Bucks, Sixers,
Heat,
them. I don't think they fall out of the top 5. I think they're better than Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto's always sneaky. You never really know.
And also it depends on how the 5 seed goes. So much can change during the year.
Let's see what the Bulls do if they're completely healthy. They just re-signed Levine.
They brought back Levine. They brought in Drummond. I
think Drummond helps them a lot. I think they still need wing depth. I don't know. Obviously they have Goran Dragic.
Yeah, but
I don't know if Derek Jones really gets it done for you off the bench.
No. Yeah, I feel like that's
I definitely the Hawks could definitely be in the conversation for a top 4 seed. The Cavs could be sneaky.
Although they haven't done nearly anything this offseason. So like they brought back Rubio, who I think was just like they loved him in the locker room. Like their record with him versus without him last year is crazy.
I mean, they re-upped on Garland, obviously. Brought back Rubio. They signed Raul Neto, who is pretty much Rubio.
Yeah.
And they signed Robin Lopez, who I think helps them keep Mobley.
Yeah,
I think it helps them keep Mobley out of the center spot.
Right. All right. So
at times is a little small. So
I want to hit on the Gobert trade real quick because I know now that it's in my head. We just talked about the Hawks and DeJounte Murray. I think that's a great fit. Gobert to the Timberwolves. Holy crap! What a now I want to pull up the Gobert trade details.
Yeah.
Just because I want to get it right because it is an unbelievable haul. And I think what the Jazz did is so smart. So the Timberwolves sent Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, Leandro Balmero, the 22 overall pick, Walker Kessler, and 4 first-round picks to the Jazz. And those picks are 2023, 2025, and 2027, all unprotected. Then in top 5 protected in 2029. Holy crap. Just for Rudy Gobert.
I mean,
oh my God.
Brian Windhorst, why would they do that?
Why would they do that? What's going on in Utah? I love Windhorst. I seriously, he did.
He's a meme now.
Literally that day, he nailed it. He was like, what's going on there? Because they just traded
I think he's always been solid. It's just
they also
traded Royce O'Neal
for a first from Brooklyn. And like that's first of all, it's a weird trade for Brooklyn, but it's also like it was a weird thing. It definitely signaled something was going on. So Windhorst totally nailed it. But that means they just pulled in essentially 6 first-round picks. If you want to count Walker Kessler as a first rounder, like you've essentially now, and so you're totally retooling. I love the trade for the Jazz because I think you had to blow up the combination of Mitchell and Gobert. And this is, I think this like totally F's up the trade market. Like I think honestly, like this is affecting Durant being able to get traded, because the Brooklyn could just be like, look at what they just got for Gobert. Like, if you think we're trading for anything even close to less than that, you're
Okay, yeah. So we all want to.
so much for Rudy Gobert, who gets played off the court in the playoffs. So much
gets played off the court in the playoffs, not because Rudy Gobert is bad, but because the Jazz system is exploitable.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell are basically cones out there, and Gobert is stuck guarding 25 feet of floor.
Right.
So,
but now what? We have D'Angelo Russell out there. He's going to get cooked.
D'Angelo Russell is actually a good defender if you look at the film.
You are giving him way more credit than he deserves.
I think he is a good team defender. I don't think individually he gets cooked because he's not a great athlete.
Yeah.
But in a scheme, my biggest issue with it is, so now you have Gobert and Towns on the floor together. That's a switching nightmare.
I mean, they're going to get, like, I think it's going to take a little while to, like, figure it out. I think they're trying to do what the Cavs just did, and they're like, screw it.
Teams are just going to.
It sounds like the mentality was like, we can't out small ball teams. Let's just out big them. And it's a fascinating fit, because Karl-Anthony Towns is shooting 40% for three for his career, and he's been better recently.
Yeah, on offense, it makes sense. Towns can be a perimeter player on offense. I think trying to get him to post up is difficult at times. You see that in the playoffs when he got super frustrated and almost blew a couple games. But I think on defense it's going to cause a lot of problems, because is Towns a good perimeter defender? I don't think so. Right, the Cavs did it because they had Mobley, who can step out and pretty much guard anybody, and that was proven this year when he'd guard 1 through 5. Lauri Markkanen, I think he was being played at like a small forward, power forward type role, and I think it's questionable. But
I mean,
obviously it worked for them.
They had a good year.
They had an up year. Let's remember that they were 9 in a weak East. So
and I mean, I think it made more sense for the Cavs to do that, and like I think I like their pieces more. Also, like, you factor in the contracts and how much money Gobert is making, and Cat just signed that Supermax extension, and D'Angelo Russell is making a ton of money. Like, I just don't think you're going to be able to fill out even if, let's say, for argument's sake, that experiment works and they're good together. You don't have the funding now to go fill in the roster around them. Like, you're buying, like, you're lucky you have Anthony Edwards on that rookie deal right now, not taking up a ton of cap, but then, like, you need to go fill shooters up around. Like, you got to get so much else done that, like, I don't know. I don't think they can do it. And so I do like it. I think it's fun. I think gave up way too much. If they gave up less, then fine. I like it. But
if Rudy Gobert's a 3-time defensive player of the year, he's going to be first team all defense.
Yeah.
Second team all defense. So he's going to make an all defensive team. Obviously, he got that contract because he has the trophy mantle to go along with it. But I mean, it's not like there's some decent shooters already on this roster. They have Jaden McDaniels, Jordan McLaughlin at times I thought looks good. Jalen Noel plays minutes for them, who I think is pretty decent. Taurean Prince, who's been a little bit of a journeyman. I think he shoots threes and plays defense.
Right.
I think the biggest problem with this trade for me is Minnesota was a improved defensive team, and I think part of that had to do with the versatility of Jared Vanderbilt, who they gave up for Gobert.
Yeah.
And so, here you go from like a super versatile, high motor defender to Rudy Gobert, who you kind of know what you're going to get from on defense. So now it kind of falls upon Towns to be a Swiss Army knife on defense, and I'm not so sure if I can rely on Towns for 25 points a game and then get back and play great defense.
I tend to agree. I think it is asking a lot, but if you were confidently paying him that Supermax deal, which I do think he deserves, he needs to now, it's on him. You have to go make this jump. And I think it's possible. I mean, he was a good defender in college, and I know it's very different than playing in the NBA.
But an interior defender.
Right. You're right. And
even early in his career,
I don't know.
I don't think so. Right. So there's a difference between having to guard LeBron at power forward and having just to clean up any mistakes that happen and block shots at the rim. early in his career, he was a shot blocker.
Right.
And I understand he's blocked less shots now, but I don't think that's because he's playing more defense on the perimeter or playing better defense on the perimeter. It's not like he's grabbing steals. It's not like he's moving his feet. I really, really think that the Timberwolves are going to get cooked on defense. You're going to face a team like the Lakers. You're going to face a team like the Mavericks. You're going to face a team like the Clippers, and they're going to give you problems just because they have guys who can bump down into power forward, who are good shooters, who can dribble, who can pass. And, I understand the thinking behind getting Gobert on the roster, but I don't know. I really don't like it.
No, I mean, I if they didn't give up that much, maybe I would. But they paid a hell of a price to marginally get better. Maybe, I mean,
I can understand if they're playing I can understand if they're playing like a 3-2 zone, where you have like three guys on the perimeter, kind of trying to take away shots, and you have two guys down low who pretty much take away everything at the rim, which means you're forcing people to shoot like, mid-range jumpers at the elbows. So we'll see what they do defensively, but NBA wise, I just don't think
it's going
to work out well for them.
Now let's get back to Utah though. While we're talking about this, is Donovan Mitchell happy? Like, he's got 4 years left on his deal. They just blew up his team.
I think,
and I know they're trying to retool around him, but yikes!
You see Danny Ainge do this in Boston,
right?
Like, the first thing he did when he got there, he was like, I'll trade away my best players for picks.
And it worked.
Absolutely screwed Nets. It worked. He just did the same thing, right? You said he just acquired 6 picks if you include Walker Kessler. So he has 5 picks just from trading one player. He's kept his options open now. I have a feeling that the Jazz are going to be bad, especially because Quinn Snyder is no longer the coach. I don't remember who they hired, but
Bill Hardy.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see how good they are, but I think I've voiced this 1,000 times. I don't believe in Donovan Mitchell as a number one player.
I mean, they're gonna have to now.
They'll have to this year, but the year after that, their options are open again, and the year after that, their options are open again. God forbid Minnesota falls apart and the 2027 pick is top 5.
Yeah.
Right. And the Jazz have their own top 5 pick from 2024 to 2026. Right. Like, they're going to build something here.
But that's why I think you got Mitchell. If you're just committing to that, like, he's not going to sit around to 2025 in mediocrity. There's no way.
Absolutely not. And if he's unhappy, trade him. I don't care. If Donovan Mitchell wants out, okay. I don't care.
Also,
leave.
I don't need you for Gobert. Imagine their asking price for him.
I think Danny Ainge is going to do a good job here. I think they have a smart organization. I think they're saying the right thing, saying we believe in Mitchell. We want him to be here. And because that's what you want him to say. You want to say, hey, play out. It's your team now. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you be great. The worst thing that happens is that Donovan Mitchell stays the same person and you trade him in a year, trade him in 2 years when his value is still really high. Best case scenario, he really takes off and his trade value skyrockets and you trade him for even more. So
I know. No, I
mean, they're just going to run pick and rolls with him all day. He's going to score 30. He's going to have 35 and 5 every game.
Like, in losses.
Yeah. So they're going to be the 9 seed in the West.
I mean, maybe, but like, do you think that roster right now is better than the Kings?
No.
That's the thing. Like, weird ass teams are going to be better this year. And like, there's a chance they miss the playoffs, which I think would piss Donovan Mitchell off and he'd be like, I'm out of here. So I think they're at a crossroads of like, Danny Ainge is like, yeah, we're going to retool around him. Like, you got to do that fairly quickly.
I just think they're saying that. I don't know if they mean it or not.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the right thing to say.
Yeah, I think so.
Again, and when it first went through, I think one of the things I brought up was the fact that Donovan Mitchell was 25. You have all these picks. Does Donovan Mitchell fit your timeline? Maybe not. We'll trade him.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're committing to getting younger. That's what it looks like, but we'll see.
100%.
All right. So want to switch gears to another trade. And I know we should be talking about free agent signings, but like, the trades are kind of bigger. I want to talk about the Nuggets trading for KCP and Ish Smith and getting rid of Monty Morris and Will Barton. I love the KCP fit. I really do. I think that starting lineup of Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic, like, holy shit, that team is good. If they come back healthy and look good, oh my God.
They definitely have guys. We talked about their draft picks a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, and then you also, like, you have Bones Highland coming off the bench. Like, they're a really good team. Like, really.
Yeah, they definitely improved. Did they bring back DeMarcus Cousins?
I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that yet, unless he signed a multi-year deal. But let me pull up basketball reference.
Yeah. So according to NBA, they picked up 2 guys through the draft.
Right. Oh,
which
yeah.
I remember. I think we might have touched on him. I like Christian Braun for them. He's first of all, the way ESPN kind of broke him down was like, well, when he was at Kentucky, he was their top steals guy. He was their top shot blocking guy. But he's a 6'7" wing who shoots threes. So he's a Swiss Army knife on defense.
I mean, they
shoots
also
a little
don't
bit.
need him to do much.
No. Right, which is why but when I think about guys that they need guys who fit around Jokic in the game that Jokic wants to play.
Right.
And that game is, you post him up, or not really post him up, but you set him up on the free throw line and you just have guys cut around him. And then if their cuts aren't open, he just, a couple spin moves and like a nice little push floater from 7 feet. Right. And that's what they need. And I think Christian Braun really fits that. And I think that was a good pick. They signed Bruce Brown and they signed DeAndre Jordan. I think Bruce Brown's another one of those guys who has value on the roster because he's a cutter. And I think some teams will leave him open in the corner because they're like, okay, I can have Jamal Murray shoot, I could have Jokic shoot, I could have Michael Porter Jr. shoot, or I could have Bruce Brown shoot.
I really love what the Nuggets did this offseason. I think can't undersell it. It might be they might be my favorite team going into the year. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
I still think they needed a more valuable backup center. I can understand not bringing Boogie back, but I thought he was a good fit on that roster. And I think they've found other people who fit well. I think they have a well-constructed roster. They have a good coach with an established system.
Well, and I think the other thing that we really need, we can't jump to conclusions because free agency is not over yet. I think everything is kind of on hold because of the whole Kevin Durant situation. So they might still make moves. There might be other stuff that goes on. So I don't want to fully swear off and be like, they're incomplete. But damn, I love everything they've done so far. And I think you're right, they need a better backup center. If they do little things like that to retool, that team is scary. I think it's them and the Clippers in the Western Conference are far.
The Clippers. I thought Clippers signing John Wall was also really big.
Huge. I think that's, and is he going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? I don't think it matters. I think if he commits to a Derrick Rose type role where, you're more of a facilitator, you're still going to score, but you're not going to be the guy anymore. I think it's perfect. And I mean, I guess we have
some guys back
in 3 years, but realistically, it's been such a long time. But you have Reggie Jackson too. You have other guards who can kind of step up.
I think John Wall to give me 12, 5 and 5, 12, 4 and 4.
Something really that would be care. Yeah. And I think that
he offers IQ. I think his jump shot is a little better than what it used to be. And obviously at one point in his career, he was a top 15 player in the NBA. I think he made a NBA All-Third team. So obviously he's going to add value to your roster, even if he's just sitting there on the bench coaching guys. I think they brought a couple guys back.
I think the same roster they had last year. Definitely, I think the Clippers and the Nuggets are far and away the favorites because I think the Warriors got worse. They lost a lot of their core pieces. I mean, if they trade for Kevin Durant, which is rumored, that would be one, unbelievably funny, but also just terrifying for the league because they would be so good again. But
talking about it with my roommate yesterday, I think that won't happen because then you kind of commit to someone else's prospects, right? Because the Warriors don't really have picks; they have prospects. They have Kuminga, they have Moody, they have Wiseman. So then the Nets would have to commit to developing guys that they didn't necessarily want to develop.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll happen. And I just don't think it would be right for either side. But I do think the Warriors did. I mean, they lost Gary Payton the second. They lost Juan Toscano Anderson,
Otto Porter.
All these guys who played like significant minutes for them out the door. So I am not sold that they are going to be the same title contender they were. Maybe they are. Maybe Moses Moody steps up. Maybe Kuminga steps up. Maybe they are a little better. Just haven't quite seen that yet. Maybe plays.
They signed Dante DiVincenzo, which I think could be really big for them.
I think that was a very good signing. But I do think it's very contingent on how these younger guys look. So I think anyway, I think they got a little worse. I think the Suns are, if they don't trade for Kevin Durant, I think we've seen are a little worse. I think the Mavericks are a little inconsistent. I think the Jazz got a little worse. Like I do think as a whole right now, those two rosters, the Clippers and the Nuggets, are, to me, they stand out as the teams to beat in the Western Conference.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Suns. Even if they bring the guys back, even if they are able to come to an extension with Ayton, there's a bad taste in my mouth about the Suns now. It just kind of seems like the trend is downhill for them now, which is bad.
I think unless they get this done, they're in trouble.
The fact they lost to the Mavericks in that type of fashion, they got blown out in the Game 7.
Yeah,
kind of right. Like I'd love to see them bounce back and have a great regular season and kind of set the tone for a new start in the playoffs. But I really feel like there's a lot of storylines, and
I don't think you're going to have guys like dancing pregame before games and like doing push-ups after wins and stuff. Like I think
there's a lot of pressure on them. I think the pressure on them this year is more than they had last year, even though they went to the finals last year, 2 years ago. So I think there's a boomer bust type of situation going on in Phoenix. They could be really good again. They could also just crumble under the pressure and not make it.
Right. No, I think there's, how do I put this? There is certainly like they're forced now to get Kevin Durant. Because if they don't, that locker room, like who's going to want to be in there? If it's like, oh, we were trying to trade all of you and like we pretty much crashed and burned last year.
I think a lot of those guys have thick skin with the trades because a lot of it is speculation and rumors. But I think it's more of Ayton probably isn't feeling great because the Suns didn't just like immediately extend him, right? And so I'm sure there's a little bit of that. Chris Paul is a year older. You know, Devin Booker still hasn't taken the step to superstardom. So I think this Suns team, the way it's currently built, is kind of coming to a close. They're going to need to make some changes.
Right. All right. Want to switch to other title contenders? Want to jump to another team that I think really solidified themselves?
Sure.
Boston Celtics trading for Malcolm Brogdon. I think it's a great fit, and they did not give up much to get him. And like, sure, there's injury concerns there, but they got their point guard. I mean, he's shown like he's put up 25 and 5. Like he's one of the only guards in the NBA to do that when he plays. And so if you get a healthy Brogdon, that made the Celtics much better. Like all you gave up was a protected 2023 first, which like, oh no, that's not the end of the world. It was going to be bad anyway. Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Tice, Malik Fitz, Jawan Morgan, and Nick Stauskas. Like that is not a hell of a lot for Brogdon. And so
no, but I think
I love that. I love that for the Celtics.
I think the Pacers wanted to move on from Brogdon, and I think they want to move on from Turner as well. I think he's one of the guys who we're going to see get traded in the next week or so.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit on Boston. My question is, what lineups do you run? I understand that it adds to your lineups, and if Malcolm Brogdon's your point guard, does that mean Tatum's playing power forward? Are you benching Smart?
I think it means Tatum's playing power forward. I think he just needs to commit to that. Sucks, so, but you gotta do it.
Yeah, and I think they have lineups they can run that are big. And let's say they run big, they put Horford at power forward, you keep Williams at center. You know who's coming off before Smart, Brogdon, and that's obviously a coaching decision they'll make. Maybe Brogdon's playing well one game, so they leave Brogdon in, they take Smart off. But I think he gives them another scoring option. I still don't think Brogdon's a true point guard. I think he's a little bit more of a combo guard. Obviously, he has the ability to pass, but there are games when Marcus Smart has 15 assists, and a lot of that's just because he's throwing passes to Tatum, and Tatum's just pulling up for jump shots. So
yeah,
I'd like to know the quality of the assist on Malcolm Brogdon. right? Like when he throws a good pass, are his teammates getting dunks or are they shooting threes? So
I mean, it also is like bad team, like good number type stats because like he had Sabonis and Turner and whatever, but they were not good. Like that team was not that Pacers
yeah,
team.
but
They were like on the fringe of
one
making the playoffs. They weren't. I don't know. I
he was
think
good
this
on
is
the
a much
Bucks when the
better
Bucks were trying
system
to
for
be
him to
good.
be in.
I think he's proven that he can play quality minutes because he was on when it was the young Bucks team before.
Right. That's where he really shined.
Middleton was really right, and so I think when he went to Indiana, he was looking to have a bigger role, and then because of injuries and time and whatnot, I think the Pacers just kind of fell apart when they could have had something more.
Yeah. But I do. I think it definitely fills a need for the Celtics. And when it's that cheap, like, oh my God, yeah, go for it. And he's on a contract for another 3 years, I think. It's not terrible. Like the pricing of that deal is not that bad. Depends on if he can stay healthy, then yeah, that's totally fine. The issue is if he's shown he can't really stay on the court. So that's where the concern is. But
it's similar to what the Mavericks did. Where when they traded for Christian Wood, they gave up like guys who don't really play
exactly
and a pick, like an almost meaningless pick.
Right. Yeah, that's why I like it. I think it was a very, very smart move for the Celtics, and I think they could realistically get back to the finals. Like I think that was something they definitely needed to address in the offseason. They absolutely nailed it.
I'd love to see them beat a healthy Bucks team. Not sure if it'll happen.
Yeah, it'll be close. I mean, the Bucks brought back everyone they needed. Their team is essentially, I mean, and they also signed Joe Ingles, which I liked. Like, I think the Bucks did get a little better, and especially if they're just healthy, like I think they'll be good.
I think health is their biggest problem.
Right. I mean, that's definitely the big one. But I mean, like, because even like they brought back Javon Carter, they brought back Bobby Portis, they are gonna get healthy, I think is really what it is. I mean, if they had Chris Middleton, I think they get out of the East. So like it's hard to say, but those injuries, you never know what's gonna happen. You never know who's gonna get hurt. You don't know if a team trade in the Eastern Conference trades for Kevin Durant, they get better or whatever. Like you don't know what's gonna happen. But I do think, yeah, the Bucks are up there with the Celtics, and I think they're pretty complete teams. So we'll see. It'll be pretty fascinating. Are there any other deals that we feel we really need to touch on? Because I'm going through here and nothing is like screaming at me. I think the only other thing I think is very interesting is that James Harden has not signed a contract yet. Sounds like he's going to take maybe 10 to 15 million less so that the team can be better. Like, I mean, they gave PJ Tucker a 3-year, $33 million deal, which if Harden signs that max, they can't do that. So he's given them flexibility, which is something I really didn't expect James Harden to do.
Harden will sign a contract on the last day of free agency and give the Sixers the most amount of time to sign people into the empty cap they've opened by not having Harden on the roster. Right? So they have his bird rights. They can sign him to $100 million a year if they wanted to, as long as they have his rights, even if they're over the cap already. So signing Harden right away kind of limits to what they can continue to bring on. So I think they signed PJ Tucker. I'm not exactly sure how they got that done, but I still think they probably have $10 to $15 million left to spend, plus a mid-level exception and whatnot. So I think they can still bring in another piece or two. And then Harden will be like, okay, great. And he'll come back. I think Harden and Daryl Morey are really, really great friends. Another thing to point out is that the Sixers signed Daniel House.
Oh, yeah.
Who had his best years when Morey was the GM in Houston. So PJ Tucker, best years in Houston.
Melton too, which is, I think, a big help. Like they solidified some of
their. They're making moves. And so I think Morey knows his guys. And obviously, a lot of the guys that they're bringing in have played high level basketball. PJ Tucker is obviously a good shooter. Daniel House is obviously a good shooter. And James Harden is close with those guys. So,
I do think it's funny. It's just like the Rockets plus Embiid.
It is
essentially just those teams from before, which were good, but still, like
I'd still love to see the Sixers move Tobias Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's other stuff they're still working out, but I think that's the problem. Like right now, as we're sitting here, like the league is on pause until anything happens with Kevin Durant, because like you can't even begin to start negotiating other things until that drops, because you don't know what you're up against, who has what assets, like because it is going to be a big multi-team trade, so everyone's on the phone with everyone trying to figure out how to get this thing done. So it's just like this weird limbo. But I do think they're not done making their roster's not final yet. And I think you're entirely right. I think Harden knows that. They were apparently meeting all weekend in the Hamptons to like come up with a plan. They're obviously going to re-sign him, and it's going to be fine. But
do the Sixers have picks?
They gave up a couple, I think, in the Harden trade. But yeah, they do.
Because it would be interesting if they could get a deal done like Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, and some picks for Kevin Durant.
I don't know that it gets it done though. And they don't have the same number of picks that to get it done. But yeah, I mean, like, I think they should try to get involved in some way. I mean, like, it can't hurt to get on the phone and be like, look, even if we don't end up with Durant, how can we get better? You know, like, how can we help facilitate this deal that will also help us? Because we know you're not getting it done right now, but let's try and figure out a way. And, you know, they have those big contracts that can help salary match. Like, there's so many things that they could do. They have like intriguing young players. Obviously, don't want to get rid of Maxey, but if you're getting Kevin Durant, yeah, you would do that. But
yeah, it'd be interesting. Maybe they can help facilitate that deal and pull away a player from the Nets. You know, like a Seth Curry, who I know is highly coveted by a lot of teams.
Right. Yeah, bring him back. I mean, he was there last year and was good. So
right,
like or maybe get it from another team involved in the trade or whatever it is. Like you can still try and improve your roster, but I think right now that's just the domino that needs to fall, and we haven't seen it.
I think Morey knows exactly what he's doing. He has his guys with him, and they're going to make it easy for him to do his job the best as he can do it. So, and we see that with Harden being patient, and you see that with Harden taking a pay cut. You know, and that goes to speak to Harden's character. You see him change his game a little bit. You see him, kind of be a team player and a leader, unlike the other two guys on the Nets. So good for him for getting out early, trying to make a difference here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's
obviously cool. Whatever they I'm hopeful about the Sixers, but I still think they're a cursed franchise. So
yeah, realistically, yeah.
I want to touch on the Bulls a little bit because they were good for a little bit last year, and then between injuries and whatnot, it kind of got tough. But they were able to retain Levine on that 5-year max.
Did they get better, Andre?
No,
Drummond is a better backup center, and that's something we said that they needed. But
right,
it's Andre Drummond. Like that doesn't tip the scale for me. So
no, he's not going to make a huge difference, but like it takes a little pressure off Vujovic, gives him a little different lineups, and I think they're very complete at center. I still think their biggest need is like, do they have a power forward who I can trust? You know, is Patrick Williams going to get it done for you? I don't know.
He's got to take a jump. It's really largely on him, and he's shown potential, but he's just got to do it. Like he's really got to go.
What kind of trades can you work out with the Toronto Raptors? Because the Toronto Raptors are filled with these guys who are between like 6'7" to 6'9", who like to guard 1 through 4.
Yeah,
who can shoot a little bit, right? So I'm interested to see if the Bulls can pull off a trade to kind of fill out the forward spot.
Well, because I also think like the Kobe White experiment has kind of failed. Maybe that would work somewhere else. Like maybe you try and dangle him out there to try and swap him for someone else that you could plug into your rotation. Especially
signing Goran Dragic.
Right. Like he definitely became obsolete. So I think there are things that they could be doing. But again, it just sucks. Like everything is on hold right now. Like, how do you call the Raptors who are trying to get a Kevin Durant deal done and be like, give me one of your guys? Like, they're gonna be like, look, we're busy. We'll get back to you when this all happens. So like, I hate it. I hate that we're stuck like this because there are so many cool things that could be going on right now that just aren't because everyone's on hold.
Right. I think there was a couple of guys who hit the free agency market that the Bulls could have targeted, and maybe they did. Like a Kyle Anderson, I think would have been good for them. Obviously, I think a PJ Tucker would have been good for them.
Right. What about like a TJ Warren, who's a free agent still?
Yeah, they could definitely do a TJ Warren.
I know he's more of a small forward, but
injury concerns a little bit. I think he's definitely a good fit if they can get him to a good contract. I'm not exactly sure what he wants, right? So if they can sign him to like a 10 million a year ish, 100% a great fit there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are ways, and I think you're right though. Like they definitely had the injury bug last year, so like it's so hard to evaluate because they were so strong early on, and then they just totally fell off. I do, I think you're gonna need to see just like a better defensive performance on their part. Like I think Vucevic is just
100%.
not that guy. Like and Drummond as a backup does not necessarily help. Like I think their interior defense is an issue.
I think Drummond's a little better than Vooch, but
yeah, definitely, but like still does not give me the bout of confidence I need.
no, he's not the stop everything type of guy that you might want.
Right. Let's see.
But Drummond's really good. Drummond's a very good post defender. If you post up on him, I think he has a great chance of stopping you. But if you're running like a pick and roll type thing at him, a more perimeter oriented inside attack, I think it's tough. I don't think he's a good shot blocker in motion. What I think he's really good at doing is he has active hands and getting strips and steals and stuff like that as you try and turn and make a move. So
yeah. I'm trying now. Let's just before we finish up, want to pivot to a couple unsigned free agents. What do you think of Colin Sexton? Where do you think he ends up? What kind of deal does he get?
Reportedly that the Mavericks reportedly offered him a $20 million a year.
But they don't even have money to do that. That's what I don't understand how that was even possible. But yeah, I mean, like, I think he needs to go sign one of these prove it deals, unfortunately, and that sucks for him. But like coming off of this serious injury, he was good, but he might need to go just 1 year somewhere to be like, look, I'm that guy. Pay me.
I think he's a high aggressive, high volume scorer. Similarly to like a Russell Westbrook on offense. I think he's a little bit better of a shooter, but I think he likes to have the ball, and I don't think he's a smart passer. I don't think he moves the ball well. I think he would make a really good fit as a sixth man somewhere, and I think the Cavs just kind of ran out of space for him. So I definitely think he could make a lot of sense on the Mavericks if he does get there. Otherwise, I think he'd just be a solid sixth man on a good team.
Yeah, unfortunately, because it sucks that injury happened because he was starting to play really well. I think it definitely benefited Garland, who just signed that max.
Right.
But
I mean, Sexton averaged 21 points his sophomore season, 24 his third season,
and that's when
he only played 11 games last year. But when he's playing, he scores a lot of points. He can score in bunches. We saw that in college when his team played like 3-on-5 or whatever, and he had 40 points. Yeah. So I think he's always been good on offense. I think defense has been a little bit of a question. I think his IQ's been in a little bit of a question. So he just needs to go somewhere where he can find a role that works for him. Right. Trying to think about the perfect destination for him. I don't think I could tell you one off the top of my head, but I like Dallas.
Yeah.
He can even go to a team that's trying to rebuild right now. Like you said, he might need to sign a prove it year. So like just sign a 1 year deal with like the Rockets, just let it run, let it rip.
And some of these teams do have money. Like I think that you see that from Lou Dort making almost 90 million, like that contract. So
well deserved though. Good defender, much improved on offense.
But the dude shoots what, like 30% from three? Like it's just funny. It's so counterintuitive now to sign a guy to that big of a contract who like isn't good at shooting. I feel like every perimeter player who makes a contract like that can shoot.
He's made steps forward on his shooting though. His rookie year, he shot under 30% on 3 attempts per game. His sophomore season, he shot 34% on 6 attempts. And last year, he shot 33% on 8 attempts. So he's making strides. Each year, his effectiveness has gone up. His effective field goal percentage was 46, 48, and now 49.5. So,
oh yeah, I mean it's not atrocious. It's definitely below league average, and when he's that strong of a defender, I guess it offsets. But yikes.
I think if he just finds his spots, he'll be good. I think the biggest concern for him right now is he played 36 games his rookie year, 52 his sophomore year, and 51 his third year. So that might also just be load management. The Thunder aren't looking to be good. So, obviously, the torture chamber knows how to lock people down.
Yeah. All right. Any other deals we want to touch on, or are we? I feel like did we get everything? I mean, obviously not everything.
I think we got a lot. I mean, there's a lot of draft day trades that I think we might have
overlooked. Yeah. I mean, so much has happened in the past week. It's been nuts. That's why I'm like,
it's more speculation right now with the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving market.
I'm hoping by next week when we're recording, this is done, so then I can not talk about them for a little while. I'm so tired of it.
What do you think about Kevin Knox getting a second contract?
Let's go Pistons.
The Pistons are going to be fun to watch next year. They're one of those teams. They're one of those teams that on League Pass, I'm like, last year I was like, oh God, I have to watch a Pistons game.
I know.
This year I'm going to be like, the Pistons are on?
Pistons, there
really
are very few teams where I'm like, I don't want to watch them. Like even I still think the Magic are one of those teams. But like I'm intrigued by Paolo. I want to see what he looks like. Like I don't love watching a Magic number one game, pick. But yeah,
Wizards game. I don't want to watch Bradley Beal and Porzingis.
Oh my God,
jack up shots. The Spurs are not an interesting team to watch. I watch the Spurs games. I'm like, wow, the way they run their flare screens are so exciting.
Right, like no thanks. But beyond that, like I don't know, Indiana. I don't really want to watch. Yeah. Everyone else I'd watch pretty happily.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these teams are either good, and even the bad teams have like a star player, like you mentioned, the Magic, where I want to see what Paulo looks like. I'll give it a shot early in the season, but obviously the number of teams I like to watch will dwindle down.
It'll fade.
The Hornets broadcasts are always electric.
I know. Except also, now, I mean, they're in trouble though, which I guess we can.
Some of the news we haven't.
Montrezl Harrell and Miles Bridges, freaking
my roommate.
Both of them
talking about Montrezl Harrell. My roommate's like, maybe he just having a big party. I'm like, oh yeah, because 2 pounds of weed.
2 pounds of weed, and then
in a state where it's not legal. Miles Bridges is done. He's out of the league. He's probably going to go to jail.
I mean, he should go to jail. I mean, it's so bad.
So the Hornets already rescinded their offer to him.
I mean, they're in a weird spot now because I don't think they saw this. They obviously didn't see this coming with the two of them.
No, but they have Gordon Hayward
Harrell last year, and they were about to sign him. Like I just think it is certainly a blow to their future.
Yeah, the whole Hornets offseason has been messy with the Kenny Atkinson backing out. A whole bunch of their players are in trouble with the law.
Right.
I think Montrezl Harrell is going to be okay. I think Montrezl Harrell is going to get like community service or something like that, right? And then he'll win NBA Man of the Year on his court mandated community service.
Community service, my God, insane.
And then Miles Bridges is probably done. He'll get 5 years. So and he won't ever make it back to the league.
Nope, and for good reason. But
hey,
yeah,
he's gonna look good against some weaker competition. I'll tell you that. So,
oh my God,
he'll be playing in Europe in 10 years,
something like that. I don't know.
He'll be the EuroLeague MVP in 10 years.
Good Lord. On that note, let's wrap this thing up. My God, we're talking about friggin' after post Gale time EuroLeague MVPs. That's when you know we've gone on too long. That's when we're really like, oh God, no. But unless you can think of anything else, that's all I got.
Zion Williams signing his 5-year max after playing 80 games in 3 seasons.
Yep, good for him.
Good for him.
A lot of gumbo for him down there, but
hell yeah. He's looked good. It seems like he's on the path to recovery again. The thing I want to mention about it is it Zion holding Zion out of basketball, or is it the Pelicans holding Zion out of basketball?
And now they're going to let him play. I think they held him out.
And now they're going to let him play, but
yeah,
as a kid, I can't imagine what that's like, right? Like you worked your whole life to play basketball and get paid, and then your team's like, you're not allowed to play. I'm sure it's super frustrating. It'll be great to see him back on the court. Pelicans had an up year. Obviously, they're going to get better if they add him because Zion Williamson is Zion Williamson. So
right, I know it's going to be fun to see him back on the court.
Also,
Especially with
the
like, the
Toronto
new Pelicans.
with the what?
The new look Pelicans when they brought in CJ and you have Herb Jones playing well.
Herb, my man. And the Toronto Raptors have the best pickup team of all time.
Yep.
Everybody shoots. Everybody's between 6'6" and 6'9", except Fred VanVleet.
I know. And I mean, they just brought in Otto Porter. Fits the mold.
Yeah, another guy.
Yep.
Thad Young returns. It's just
I do love the offseason. Honestly, the offseason might be better than the actual season.
There's been a lot of
drama. So much drama, so much beef, so much action. We're about to get Summer League this week too. Rocks. I'm happy.
Summer League already started. You've seen some
a little
light action.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. I didn't even realize Summer League was starting this.
It was like some special games. It wasn't like the Vegas tournament yet.
No. It wasn't. Yeah. It was like second. It was the California teams all playing each other.
Yeah.
Lakers.
So nothing crazy yet.
Kings, Warriors. So.
Right.
It's good to see a little bit of action though. Sharif O'Neal's on the Lakers.
I know.
Team. Scottie Pippen Jr. We got some names. I think Mac McClung is back on the Lakers Summer League.
Dunks.
See some dunks, yeah. It's exciting. The Lakers are making money on this Summer League. I'm telling you.
I know.
They got an all-star start. Their roster is all-star studded. They got every big
I
name.
am just excited. Like the same way we just saw Keegan Murray play well. Like I want to see what all these guys do. All these top picks, like Jaden Ivey. Oh my God, I can't wait.
Oh, he's gonna run so fast.
Yeah. It's gonna be I'm pumped. I'm so pumped. Give it to me.
I've never seen Jaden Ivey run that fast.
Yeah.
He was saving it for the league,
Yeah. But all right, let's wrap this puppy up. We'll send everyone on their way. Let you enjoy some 4th of July festivities, maybe some fireworks or something.
I'll make some pancakes. Fireworks going off all night last night.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad. Poor dogs in the area.
Was your dog freaking out? Was Maisie freaking out?
No, I mean, like, she's pretty okay with that stuff. My old dog used to, but my God, yeah, poor dogs. They don't understand that we're just like dumb and like lighting stuff on fire. But
yeah, it's the same thing with the deers. The reason why you hit the deers is because they don't understand that you're following the road. So They see you coming at them, and then you follow the road right, but they started running into the road.
They go that way.
Yeah. Because they don't realize you're following the road.
Right.
They're like, that's a big, scary car. It's making a lot of noise and it's bright.
Oh, my God. All right, Luke. Well, I will be texting you as more and more crap comes out. But
I'm excited for it.
Yeah. But to everyone who's made it this far, thank you for tuning in and join us next time for some more NBA action.